this video, we're going to explore what it means to play the piano using all 6 degrees of freedom. Keyword 6, keyword freedom, and why it's so important if you want to play piano like an artist. Let's go. So let's talk about what we mean by these 6 degrees of freedom, and let's do it by having a little fun using a Rubik's Cube. And so realize that we live in 3-dimensional space, which means at least we can move in a straight line in 3 different directions. And so using the piano keyboard as a point of reference, this means we can move up and down, left and right, and forward and back. But what's really cool is these are not the only degrees of freedom. We also have the ability to rotate about each of these 3 axes. And so, we can move up and down, but we can also rotate about that axis. And we can move left and right, but we can also rotate about that axis. And then we can move forward and back. And again, we can rotate about that axis. So what are you supposed to do with this wee bit of knowledge? Let me leave you with 2 huge takeaways. Takeaway number 1, if you want to play with freedom and ease, you must play using all 6 degrees of freedom. And you can't allow even one of those degrees of freedom to get stuck or frozen, or tension is going to set in immediately. And by the way, allow me to insert a bit of a rant here. And people who know me know how I feel about this. The finger training school is a musical dead end, because the finger training school of piano technique encourages students to constrain rather than liberate these degrees of freedom. And takeaway number 2 is that cultivating the habit of playing, always playing using all 6 degrees of freedom, requires us to use all, not some, all of our piano playing body parts, and to keep them moving, every one of them moving at all times. Not sometimes, not most of the time, all the time, especially in between the notes. And I have to emphasize that doing this requires no special talent, because these kinds of motions are perfectly natural. And one way to cultivate this feeling of natural motion is when you're going through space and going from place to place, never think about just going there in a straight line. Always think about going from place to place by connecting them with beautiful, flowing, musical curves.